honestly want to try that. Do you think that we should try that?
What's that?
We can't really make a comment on that until we have a task force.
Internally, that's
yeah,
what
internally, I think that would be good.
You know, it's going to fly with management.
I think maybe I could try that with you. You know, what do I think is going to happen? I don't know. I've got a task force on it. I'm not even, you know.
Not going to be much of a program if we do that. Right?
That's true.
Jonathan, thank you. Good to see you, buddy. Jonathan Jackson there of JP Morgan Asset Management. With belief that this market is overpriced in hikes. We're just a few moments away from hearing from the Fed Chair Kevin Walsh in Sintra, Portugal, alongside the ECB chief and peers from the Bank of England and the Bank of Canada.
Yeah, and he has to say something. And it's a good point, the idea that in a committee setting, it's harder to really just say, you know, I'm not going to comment on that. And he's also representing his personal views.
You hear start pontificating about the rest of the world and everything's going on, you're going to sit there and say nothing.
He has a task force.
Right?
That's true.
There's a bit of peer pressure involved here too.
Totally. And also, you made a great point earlier in the week talking about how he said he wasn't going to speak unless he had something to say.
Right.
He's speaking. So let's hear what you got to say, especially given the fact that the market has done a lot of heavy lifting. It seems to have already embraced the idea of a rate hike. Even if he just says, look, I'm watching the markets, I'm watching the data, I'm trying to understand what's necessary. Is that enough?
Finding out what he's watching would be news. Right?
Yeah.
So let's try and find out what he's watching.
Watched Mexico last night.
I was watching that too. Watched the goals this morning.
Very late for you.
I was in stand-up.
Oh.
Watched the replay. Can you imagine me stand up that live? I wish.
Has anyone actually made it to level 4 before? If you're slightly congested, use level 1. If you find yourself...
I said to Boeing, what's the best one? They said, this is the best plane ever built. And you can have the privilege of flying it, and I have a privilege also of flying it. But this is the first flight. We're going to the Teddy Roosevelt Presidential Library. It's opening, and that'll be very good. That'll be a lot of fun. But I think, you know, to be honest with you, I'm excited about the first flight. It's something nobody's ever seen anything like it. Even you people with all your experience and all of your talent, you will never see anything like this. So they just completed it. They made it appropriate for a president that means the security and all of the different bells and whistles they put on. Very complex stuff, but it's really quite something. And this is a plane that the United States of America should have. Our Air Force One was 35, 36 years old, and it would be parked next to the new ones like this, and it really didn't look appropriate for our country. So we're very proud of this. The country is very proud of it. And you can do two things. You can low-key it, or you can show it. And I think the country should be very proud of it. And it's beautiful, and you'll see that in a little while when you board. As far as things are going, the denuclearization of Iran is moving along well. They've had very good meetings, and we'll see. We hit them very hard for 3 nights, as you know. But we're getting along very well. So I call it the denuclearization. And it's all taking place. It's all going well. The stock market is setting records virtually every day. The oil price is way down. We're down at 68. I see it at 68 today. That's lower than when I started the, I guess you could call it an attack on Iran so that they never have a nuclear weapon. So the oil price is now lower. The retail prices, the gasoline is coming down rapidly. And if you have any questions, let's go.
Mr. President, what's your favorite upgrade to the new plane, and how much did it cost American taxpayers to upgrade the plane?
Well, it costs very little relative to what it would cost if we did it a different way. So this was a gift from a country that's treated us very well, and they're an ally of us over in the Middle East, GETTR. And I went to Boeing and I said, who has the best one? They said, GETTR. There's never been a plane like it. Frankly, we couldn't build a plane like this because we wouldn't be willing to spend the kind of money necessary. They spent top dollar. So the head of Boeing said, this is considered the best 747 they've ever built. And I went to GETTR and said, I'd like to use it for a period of time because the other ones, as you know, are under construction. They'll be here in 2 years. And because, you know, the plane is 35 years old. So I said, I'd like to use it. And the Emir, Namib, who's a great gentleman, he said, no, I'd like to make a contribution to the country. So it was very nice. And we're able to do it in about 5 months. Bring it up to the presidential standard, meaning security-wise. And you're gonna get a kick out of it. There's just nothing on it.
And Mr. President, your financial disclosure shows you had a very lucrative year last year. What message does this send to average Americans, especially those who may be struggling right now financially?
I don't get involved in my personal. We have funds that run my money.
But you are benefiting.
Well, I made a lot of money before I became president, and they invest my money, and I don't talk to them. I don't even speak to them. So I have many people. I don't know what they call closed accounts or something. You put your money in, and that's it. I don't talk to them. They're big institutions, and they run it. But yeah, I've had a great career in business. I've had a great career.
Concerns about conflict of interest?
I don't know if I've had a better career in politics or business, but I had a great career in business, and you saw the cash.
For someone that is such a billionaire, he doesn't seem too bright, especially when it comes to certain terms. He's not an intellectual. He has street smarts, but he's not an intellectual. Please go to my, oh, by the way, we are live streaming on YouTube and Rumble and on my website, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Thank you for joining. My name is Dr. Paul Cottrell. We're going to go over the news. I'm going to tell you how the markets are performing, how to benefit from them, how I'm benefiting from them, so you can become a billionaire like Donald Trump. And also how to improve your health and wellness so you don't look like Donald Trump. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. We're in the allergy season, so please make sure you stock up for your household structural nail silver lozenges. These are better than other lozenges that you may be purchasing from somewhere else because this has structural nail silver. It will neutralize the allergens, and during the cold season, it will neutralize. It'll help to protect your oral pharynx and mitigate any sore throat or any allergy that you may happen to get. Now, if you're cleaning in the home, make sure that you prophylactically use these lozenges because dust from the basement or in the garage or in the yard or just cleaning, by protecting your oral pharynx through the secretions of these structural nail silver lozenges, you are boosting up your innate immune system. So please go to my store and get the structural nail silver lozenges. You can get it in Manuka honey and also in orange splash. And also, good night formula. Good night formula will help you to get into 3 to 5 cycles of REM sleep and deep sleep. This is really important to help to slow down the aging process and to improve your brain function. This has tryptophan, melatonin, GABA, and passion flower. When you get into these 3 to 5 cycles of REM sleep regularly, you're detoxifying your central nervous system, consolidating memory, and you'll be well rested. You will start improving positively your neuroplasticity. You'll have more dendritic connections. You'll be able to concentrate better. Your memory will improve. So please go to my store and get the Good Night Formula. Take it every night and get a better sleep. Good sleep will help to slow down the aging process.
Report the different things, and what they do is we gave it. I think it's called the blind account, but they take it. And I never speak to any of the people that run the money, but they're big institutions, and they invest in whatever they invest.
But to critics who say you're profiting off the presidency, Mr.
Well, you know why I'm profiting because the stock market's going up. Everybody's profiting. If you have a 401k, how's your 401k done? It's about up 85%. Thank you, President Trump. So we're all profiting. I'm profiting because I have a lot of money and a lot of cash, and I give it to institutions. I don't know if they know what they're doing or not, but they buy a vast array of things.
President, Secretary Hexas and General Kane about potentially returning to an all-out war with Iran. Does this mean you've been unhappy with Iran's adherence to the MOU?
Well, I think they've come a long way. We hit them very hard last week. I think they're fine. I think we're going to. It's the denuclearization of Iran. It's very simple. and Iraq cannot have a nuclear weapon. Otherwise, all of this stuff that we look at, all of these things that we do, the country's never had activity like it's got right now. So we're building more factories and car plants and other things. We went for years without ever building one car plant. Now we're building many car plants. We're building AI. We're building all over the country. $19.1 trillion being invested. The record was like 2. And we've got 19.1, and it's going to continue. And when those buildings open, you're going to see something like the country's never seen before. That's why the stock market's going up every day. That's why your 401k, because everybody benefits. When the stock market goes up, everybody benefits. More jobs, more everything. And we're creating more jobs. We have more people working today than have ever worked in the history of our country. It's great. And that's before these places open. They'll be opening up over the next year. And we have them coming into Taiwan. We have from Taiwan, we have more chip makers. And the biggest company in the world, actually, the chip maker. But they're coming in, they're building in Arizona, and they just announced they're going to double the size. We could have 50% of the chip market by the time I leave office. You know what we had now? Nothing. And then I got, as a gift, another gift, I said to Intel, give the United States, they needed something, they needed some help, the chip maker. I said, give the United States of America, I'll do it for you, but give the United States of America 10% of your company. He said, you have a deal. He said it so fast, I said I should have asked for more. But he said, you have a deal. And that stake is now worth $80 billion. I made $80 billion for the country in 8 months. Does anybody talk about it? No. Have a good time. Have a good plane. Enjoy the plane.
Mr. President, real quick question. You've got D&I Pulte over there as the new director. We also know you have the task force set up on declassification. Maybe talking about international, maybe looking at some declassification. Are you able to give us an update on this?
Declassify almost everything. And you know, by the way, we have Jay Clayton is going in. You know, Bill Pulte's a very talented guy, but he's just there temporarily until Jay Clayton. And Jay Clayton is going through the process. And Jay Clayton, highly respected, and so is Bill Pulte. But Bill is there just for a fairly short period of time. But while he's there, I said, you can declassify whatever you want.
Do you think we're going to get some soon, or maybe 2020?
I told him you can do it instead. You got to ask him. All right. But I think, he's a friend of his. I think that Bill will declassify. I told him you can declassify whatever you want. So Bill's there just, for maybe a month or 2 months or something. And Jay's going through the process. He's got a hearing in 2 weeks. Highly respected man, Jay Clayton. Thank you. Did you get any more Pulitzer Prize? Not yet. You don't want a Pulitzer Prize? A picture of the plane. Margo, are you taking care of everybody? That's Margo, okay? Thank you.
All right, President Trump, very briefly, speaking to the media there as he is on his way to North Dakota right now. Once again, he is going to be participating in a tour of the Theodore Roosevelt Presidential Library, and also at 3:15 p.m. Eastern Time, President Trump set to deliver some remarks there as well. Now, before he does that, he's also participating in a Freedom to...
As we go to another clip, please help support the work that I do by being a paid member to my Patreon channel. All these videos are for free. I give you some information about the markets, my perspective on the news, and how to improve your health and wellness. But all these videos are for free. Please help support the work that I do. You can also donate on my website, the-studio-reykjavik.com. On the homepage, you can donate through Stripe, PayPal, or buy me a coffee. The markets will be opening up in about 21 minutes. The equity futures are slightly down. They're at 7,526. The VIX is stable. It's just below 17. The euro is trading at 113. The Japanese yen is trading at 162.68. So currencies are stable. Bitcoin starting to go down. It's at 58,710. Stay away from Bitcoin unless you're shorting it. Oil is trading at 69.10, and natural gas right now is trading at 3.24. Now, what I'm doing today is shorting natural gas and longing the equity market. Now, we're getting into the long holiday weekend. I'm not sure if there's going to be that much trading movement today. The action's really going to be next week. So I'm kind of prepping for that action. Now, for oil, there's going to be this trading range. We have this support level at about 68.70. So around the 68 position, 68.50 if you want to just round it, as a support level for oil. And you have approximately a ceiling for this trading range of about $79 per barrel for WTI. But interim trading, so near-term trading, we're probably going to be bouncing around the 68 mark to around 72, I would suspect, unless something happens with this MOU and peace agreement. If it's positive, then we're going to break that support level and start trading below 68, maybe the high 67 range. If it's negative, if something bad in the negotiations happen, I suspect that we're going to be trading closer to $74 to $79 a barrel. I don't think we are going to be getting to the $90 a barrel anytime soon, but beware of this trading range. It's probably biased to go down, but it's going to be undulating. It might break the 68 and start trading below, and then it'll start to come back up, and there'll be this, what I call a harmonic dissipation. That's, if you look at a year chart of day candles of the WTI future market, you'll see what I'm talking about. There's this oscillation that's starting to take place, and there's this harmonic dissipation where we're going to be in a normal trading range. Natural gas, top is around 3.3. Bottom of this trading range is just below 3.1. So right now it's trading at 3.23, so I'm shorting. So with that, let's listen to Fox News.
Introducing the world's most researched brain photobiomodulation device.
Joining us now, Homeland Security Secretary Mark Wayne Mullen to weigh in on this. Good morning to you, Mr. Secretary. Thank you for being here. He won some of the victories in the Supreme Court, others not so much. This was one of the, he had the executive order he didn't want. If you're born here and your parents are illegal, he didn't want you to be a citizen, but the Supreme Court upheld that.
Well, I think the president was spot on this, and the court is absolutely dead wrong on this situation. If you look at the reason for the 14th Amendment, again, this is way outside what has happened, especially with China and their tourist visas that they get to come into the United States or into our territories.
Exactly.
Just
Birthright citizenship has different categories, but the ones that are here illegally, their child should not get, I personally think that their child should not get citizenship. And there are an increasing number of individuals that are traveling while they're pregnant and they give birth in the United States. They want to give birth in the United States and their child ends up getting citizenship. And eventually what happens is that this anchors them, even if they go back to their home country, this will eventually get them into the door for processing to become citizens. The parents, let's say the child is 16, they decide, or let's say 18, and he or she decides to live in the United States. There will be a process to bring the parents with them to be fast-tracked. Just imagine when the Democratic Party starts to take control of the executive branch and the legislative branch. Eventually it will happen. And it will be sped up. It will be on steroids. This fast tracking, this immigration legal industry will have a bonanza. Okay, so you have this issue where people are coming here illegally and having their child. And it kind of anchors them here for processing. You have individuals coming here on tourism to have a kid, and then eventually that kid ends up getting citizenship that in the future allows them to anchor into the United States. It's a little bit longer duration than the ones that just illegally come here. But the point here is that it's happening. It's not theoretical. Now, most American citizens are against this policy, this ruling by SCOTUS. And unfortunately, I think they did it on purpose. I think the justices want to actually weaken the country. It's not that they don't know that this is going to help. That this is going to help the cause of the liberal movement and weaken the country. How does it weaken the country? You can have a terrorist actor, terrorist state, have a policy, and they think in terms of years, not months, but have a group of people coming from a certain region of the world, like the Middle East, have their kid. That kid is raised, that kid is born in the United States. It goes back to, let's say, Iran. You know, I'm just giving this as an example, or Lebanon. And that kid's raised in the Middle East and then comes back to the United States to live. And all of a sudden the parents are processed through, or a group of people. It's not just this one kid, maybe it's a whole village of individuals, maybe 10 individuals that are pregnant that end up coming to the United States and having their child. And then they go back to that village. And it's designed that these kids will end up being terrorists. This is not out of the realm of possibility here. And then they come back to the United States, legal citizens, and all of a sudden we have opened up the door to terrorism. Now, is that plausible? Yes. Is it highly probable that all of these things are going to happen? No. What's even more pernicious is when the border becomes more porous after Trump's administration, there's going to be more illegals coming in. And they will have their kid, and they're going to have this birthright citizenship and the anchoring of the parents. You're going to have a liberal bias towards keeping them here and fast tracking them for legal status. And it's going to change the composition and the culture of the United States. Now, who are some of the people that are coming over the border? Many of them are from Central and South America. So you're talking about Latinos. But there are many other countries that are flying into this in South America and then taking the route to get into the United States. This was what was happening with the caravans. Some were Chinese, some were Ukrainian, some were from Africa. So you have other people traversing through those caravans towards the United States when we had a porous border. That's not happening under the Trump administration, but again, what happens when you have a Democrat president not willing to enforce border laws? What happens when you have a Democrat-run legislature that's in control of the House and the Senate? where they just increase the flow. This is going to change the structure of the society. And it's going to be pernicious, and it's going to get bigger as time goes on and more prevalent 18 years, 20 years down the road. Not just in terms of total births, but the ones that this influx of birthright citizenship, they will start becoming adults. These children will become adults in 18 years, getting into the job market, starting to vote, and it's going to change the composition of the United States. Now, look at what's happening with democratic socialism. They're pushing this democratic socialism. Now, who are many of the people that are voting for this? Minorities and disenfranchised youth. The Democratic Party is setting in motion for a future democratic socialism party in 18 years. And it's going to be hypercharged compared to what we see currently. So are conservatives going to push back? Hopefully Congress will get their act together, because the Republicans are in charge, and make this illegal without doing a constitutional amendment and curtailing this. But I'm afraid that the Republican Party can't get their act together to actually do the right thing. And this will become a perennial issue during elections, during the general elections, and never really get anything done. I mean, think about how perennial it was with just enhancing border security, preventing illegal immigration. Remember, I mean, I remember this being an issue going all the way back to Reagan. And there was, during his administration, there was amnesty that was given, but there wasn't a correction. It didn't correct the problem. All it did was give more incentive for future decades of more inflow of illegals. And hence, look at, fast forward from Reagan to Biden. Look what happened. The country is changing. Think about if you're a Gen X, around my age or older. America is no longer the America you were born into. It's different. And it's not necessarily a good thing. Now, people might say that's racist or that's just xenophobic. The culture is different. And if conservatives want to hold the line and have, I'm for immigration, but controlled immigration, not uncontrolled immigration. And it has to be legal, not illegal. Because if you just have a steady flow of illegal immigration, the country is not in control of what that composition of the population will be. It will be whatever that illegal flow is at the time. And remember, it's pernicious. You get that pulse of illegal population, but then they have kids. And then what happens is that it sprouts. And after 18 years, 20 years, you start seeing that the politics change. They're in the educational system. They're running for city politics, and it changes. This is part of the impetus of this democratic socialism that's taking place. So when Clarence Thomas and Alito mentioned that this was going to cause problems in the United States in the future, they're right. Clarence Thomas is right about this. This is a failure of SCOTUS to heed the warning that the country and our affinity to a constitutional republic is at risk now. I can only conclude that the ones that actually pushed the ruling for birthright citizenship, including Barrett and Barrett and Roberts, they know what they're doing. They want to change the country. Question is why? Who got to them? Who's in charge of this? My personal belief on this, I have no evidence to prove it, but I suspect, so a hypothesis, I suspect that we are seeing the seeds being sown for the new wave of globalization, where it's an erosion of borders. It will be regional. There'll be these regions that are amalgamated for monetary union, and that we will be merging with North America, Central America, and South America. And if you change the composition in the United States, you have a higher probability to allow this merging to happen. Barrett and Roberts are globalists, and that's the problem.
And give birth. They'll come in and the 8th month, maybe 1, 2, 3 weeks left, give birth here, have a child, then they move back to China, raise a person underneath the communist regime, even though they're a citizen of the United States, and they come back over here. And in some cases, we see they go to their universities, they're stealing intellectual property, and it's absolutely been a national security issue. This is truly a national security risk that we're having. But we're re-looking at it. We had a long conversation with the
It's a national security risk at the very beginning, because you may be anchoring some of nefarious actors that are the parents. It's a national security risk perniciously down the road in 20 years. If you have some sort of terrorist plan from a nation state like Iran, and they think in terms of decades, they don't think in terms of days. They think in terms of decades. But then you have the globalists that want to basically, if you want to push globalization, you actually have to erode the Constitution. You have to erode the provisions, some of the provisions of our constitutional republic, so you can fast track globalization. Not being able to control your currency is another way to prevent a country to run itself. If you can't control your currency, you can't control your borders, you don't have a country. Oh, you got a big military. That doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. You can't control your borders, and you can't control your currency. You don't have a country. Now, what does this mean at the second derivative? If you can't control your currency, you're not controlling your economy. What does that mean as a second derivative for the borders? If you can't control the border, you're not controlling the composition of the population. And if you're not controlling the composition of the population for the third derivative, what does that mean? It means your politics are going to change. And this is exactly the warning signs that are happening in the United States with this democratic socialism, this DSA. Communism is coming around the corner for the United States. The conservatives need to push back. Barrett and Roberts should have known better, and I can only conclude that they want this to happen.
House yesterday, a long conversation with the president, Tom Homan, Stephen Miller, all of us together are working and saying, okay, how can we protect America and still at the same time, unfortunately, figure out how to work with the court in this situation.
And one thing you're doing is looking at the territories which China especially is abusing, Guam,
That's
or
right.
places, and saying, okay, you're 8.5 months pregnant, maybe you should get on that plane.
Well, because where they go to and they show up late, it can cause a health issue for the mother.
Yeah, we're concerned
Yes,
about the mother.
and especially traveling that late. For instance, my son is about ready to have my son and daughter-in-law. They're about ready to have our first grandchild, and they're traveling here for the 4th of July. But the doctor said this is the last time they're traveling because she's due the 1st of August. And so their doctor is already saying, hey, this shouldn't be a travel except in a case of emergency. Well, you're not going on vacation in emergency in late-term pregnancy. And so those are some issues that we can look at. Because at the end of the day, it is national security. Listen,
Yes.
all these men and women that's sitting out here, which, by the way, the first time to be on your set and sit here with these guys, true heroes.
No, what they should do, it's as simple as this. Hey, if you're late term, you don't get into the United States. You just don't pass immigration. Period. Send them back. And when it comes to illegals, and then you catch them, and they're pregnant, you fast track them back to their country, so they can't have the kid.
I mean, this is 1% of the population that fought for all of our rights before they even knew us, right? They sacrificed everything. And what we have to do is a duty right now with President Trump is protect that, protect the land that they fought for. And part of this is a national security risk, and no one can say it's not.
So, Mr. Secretary, we've talked on this program about the American children that are dying because people that shouldn't have been in the country, they got in. And they killed our treasure here. The mother of Sheridan Gordon was on Capitol Hill yesterday. It was an emotional moment. This is what she had to say during her testimony.
This story is not about him.
This is the #1 Senate race in the country, and I need your help because the Republican Party has already spent $10 million, and our FEC deadline is just to...
This story is not about him. This story is about my Sheridan. It's about how failed border policies, sanctuary city laws, and twisted leaders refused to cooperate with ICE. They sent her to her grave. We choose you. We choose you. Choose us. Why does my child matter less than an illegal immigrant?
Exactly. Exactly.
I don't understand why it's only the Republican side that cares about our American children.
But they behaved like clowns yesterday.
Right.
But the problem is,
shameful because
the problem with the Republican Party, I agree with this woman, but the problem with the Republican Party is that when individuals like myself actually give them power through our vote, and they are running the legislature and they're running the executive branch, they can't get the damn job done. They get whatever needs to be fixed. This is the problem. The Republicans have great ideas, but are disorganized. They can't get the job done. The Democrats have bad ideas and they're well organized. And this is what's going to happen, where our country is going to burn down because we're going to have democratic socialism across the country. They're using the seed corn of illegal immigrants and this birthright citizenship stuff to sow the seeds of our destruction. Democratic socialism will gain momentum, not weaken with this. Because think about, who are the ones that are coming to the United States illegally? What countries are they coming from? They're coming from countries that are failed because of social policies, socialism. So don't you think that they're gonna, want to hand out because, that's what they've been born into? That's all they know? Why is it that you look at what is happening with the composition of the Democratic Party, especially with the midterm elections and the DSA, this Democratic Socialism of America? What's the composition of this? Muslim, Latino. You're starting to see this? Wake up. Look at what happened with Europe. Europe was taken over because of an Islamic takeover. And it was because of the immigration policies that they had, stupid immigration policies that the European Union had. Same thing is going to be happening to the United States. But it's going to be twofold. It's going to be Muslim, Hindu, Latino.
Single death that is at the hand of an illegal is 100% preventable, because a person should never been in this country to begin with, because the failed policy of the Biden administration that let millions of individuals come in unvetted, unchecked. We're chasing down trafficked little girls, the tune of 450,000 children that were lost during the Biden administration. We have deaths that are happening at an unprecedented pace by the hands of illegals. 50% of every death that has happened in Fairfax County, Virginia, is at the hands of an illegal. 50%. Wow. 41 individuals have been killed in Tennessee in the last 12 months. And from illegals. They should have never been in this country. The statistics are off the chart. And every single day, DHS, through ICE, and all the other components we have are fighting to get these criminals off our streets. The worst, 70%, this is a statistic that people need to understand. 70% of every single person that ICE arrests on a daily basis either have already been convicted of a felon, or they're being charged with a felony. 70%.
That's important.
It's very important, because these are thugs. These are criminals that are walking our streets, and we're having to fight sanctuary cities. Unfortunately, where we're sitting today, the leadership in New York City right now is horrific. And let me tell you, the police officers and NYPD, they are the best of the best. Literally, we love working with them, and yet their leadership is handcuffed and say, no, you can't work with them. You can't work to get the criminals off our streets.
Or out of your prisons. Now, you have a message too. So we're coming up on year 250. You have an interesting background, American Indian background as well. Right. So when you look back at American 250, we're just wondering if you would take a moment as we get closer and closer to July 4th. What does it mean to you?
Well, look, I'm a little country boy from Westville, Oklahoma. This can only happen in America, right? I still own the land, the Indian allotment land that my family walked to in the late 1830s as Cherokees. No one of my family's ever been involved in politics. I had to drop out of college because my dad needed help in a plumbing company. And in some way, through God's grace and the fact that I'm truly an American that lives in the greatest nation in the world. Remember, people are flooding to our borders and trying to get into our country. We're not going the other direction. And yet I'm sitting here as Secretary of the Homeland, getting to protect our homeland. Right. I think it's the greatest mission in the world. I haven't quit smiling. It's 100 days since I've been appointed. Right. And I have the greatest mission, and I do truly believe in the President's cabinet to be able to protect my yard, your yard. I even try to protect New York. I know they don't like me, but the fact is, it's part of our homeland.
Please don't stop. Please don't stop. We need you. I remember when the president asked if you would be on his cabinet, and you said, I can't wait to call my dad, or something like that. I was like, that's so cute.
Well, my wife.
Yeah.
I want to make sure I said, that's right. 29 years of marriage, and my dad just said, wow. That's all I said.
That's cool. Yeah. The American dream. Billy has a question for you, Mr. Secretary.
Good morning. How are you, Secretary?
I needed 10 sequin cowboy hats for a bachelorette party, but what did I get?
What the?
But then everything was just.
Good morning. How are you, Secretary?
Hey, brother. How you doing?
All right. Again, you spoke about
a great mustache.
Thank you very much. Yes, you spoke about the youth, but how are you making this happen where we can protect our youth, where they're not being attacked on college campuses by all these so-called illegals? What are you doing? How are you getting the other parties involved where you can say, listen, we need to come together and understand why this is so important to protect the American people?
Well, one of the things that we do is really try to educate individuals to let them know what actually is taking place. We have 450,000 kids lost. We've found 147,000. We tell their stories. We've had a couple girls who were rescued out of a hotel that literally reported being raped 15 to 20 times a day, 7 days a week, over 600 to 700 times. It's horrific stories. But as we tell those stories, we have more law enforcement agencies that are saying, hey, forget it. We're pushing back against our leadership. We're going to start cooperating. Some of them cooperate with what we call the 287G program, where we actually reimburse you for it. That's what the federal government does through ICE. We reimburse you for your time, even help buy equipment. And some are saying, since we can't legally participate with the 287G program, they call us and let us know. Because what happens in sanctuary cities is they will arrest these individuals after they serve their time. They release them back on the streets, and they won't inform us, even though we have issued the paperwork to be able to pick them up. But we're having now law enforcement call us and say, hey, this person's being released on this day. We can't hand them over to you, but as they walk out their gate, they're fair game, and we arrest them there. So more cooperation we can get, even from places that aren't supposed to participate with us, is the right way to go. But the residents of the community, they're the ones that need to start stepping up. Leadership matters. And when you elect the wrong leadership, it's okay to correct course. It's okay to go say, hey, we made a mistake. It's time for us to do better and get somebody else in there, because if they're not protecting you and they're protecting criminals, that's not called leadership, that's called pandering.
Yeah, that's because Eric Adams and Cuomo lost to Bandali, and now we have the situation we have in New York City. That's why people make terrible choices here in New York City, and we can't vote because I don't live here. Thanks so much, Mr. Secretary. Such an honor to be here.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the.
We need to protect our borders, and we need to protect the composition of the nation to maintain this constitutional republic. If you change the composition of the nation too quickly, you will no longer have that. And that's what exactly the Democratic Socialists want. They want to change the composition of the population of the United States to unravel the Constitution. They're doing some nefarious things. We need to wake up and push back. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the vitamin C and magnesium. This will help to improve your immune system, help with brain function, and help with your skin. Magnesium and zinc boosts up that immune system and helps with brain function. Most people are not taking enough magnesium to improve brain function. So please, if you want to slow down the aging process and improve your cognition, taking magnesium is super important. Probiotics, I have two types. You can get the powdered version or the veggie cap version. Either one, but take it every day. This will improve your gut biome, allow you to absorb your nutrients, improve your metabolism, help boost up your immune system, bring down inflammation at the gut level, reduce the erosion of the lining of the gut, reduce leaky gut syndrome, improve your sleep, improve your skin. You get many different benefits from taking a good probiotic. Good health starts at the gut. So please go to my store and get either the powdered version or the veggie cap version. Take it every day. Another great supplement to help with digestion, digestive enzyme complex. What this will do is reduce the load on your pancreas, allow you to break up the proteins, carbohydrates, and lipids so you can absorb your nutrients with less stress on your digestive system. So please, go to my store, make sure you take the digestive enzyme complex when you eat, and this will help the health of your pancreas and help with absorbing your nutrients. This also has bromelain, which is an enzyme to help break up clots. Really important. So by taking digestive enzyme complex, you're also slowly improving your cardiovascular health. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. And lastly, vitamin D3. Simple vitamin, but it's very powerful. It's a gene expression cofactor, so your cells will perform better when you take vitamin D3. It helps to get rid of cells that need to go into apoptosis if they're infected. Super important during the cold season. Vitamin D3 also helps with cardiovascular health, especially when you stack it with K2 and K7. And vitamin D3 helps with bone density. Taking in calcium, doing resistance training, and it improves that bone density. Super important. You ever see someone that has brittle bones, falls, and then 2-3 weeks later they're dead? Because that's what happens to many people that are in their geriatric years and they did not improve their bone density. So you don't want to be a victim of that. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the vitamin D3. let's do a recap of the market. The market is open up. The S&P 500 is trading at 7,459 right now. VIX is trading at 17. Euro is gaining some momentum relative to the dollar, so the dollar is weakening a little bit with the euro. The euro is trading at 114. Japanese yen is trading at 162.38. It's gaining a little bit, so the dollar is weakening across the board here. Bitcoin is now trading at 59,000. Oil, stable, trading just below $79 a barrel. And natural gas is trading at 3.221. Now, early in the session, I said that I'm shorting natural gas and longing the S&P 500. I just made money on the natural gas. I closed out the position. I'm waiting to go back in. So, and we started this conversation on Rumble an hour, about an hour ago, a little bit more than an hour ago. Hour and 15 minutes or whatever it is. So if you just pay attention, in a very short amount of time, you can make some money. I'm telling you what to do. So, you do whatever you want. But the thing is that you can listen to the news, pay attention to the movements, the dynamics of complex systems, and benefit from it. But if you also listen to me about how to improve your health, you will have more vitality, longevity. You won't be dependent on pharmacopoeia. You'll just have a better life. So do you want to be a victim, or do you want to actually be the master of your own destiny? So just listen. Just listen. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. And part of the reason why the dollar is weakening is Walsh's talk on Bloomberg. So let's just listen in. Walsh is the new Fed chair.
Of trying to extract that. My view, and my colleagues I think have said this better than my view is financial markets and the real economy work best. When you look at what's happening in the real economy, you make your own judgments. There has been a tendency, and I take plenty of blame from this, the 08 crisis, where we were trying to suppress volatility, where we thought we needed to spoon feed markets to get out of that. That was the right policy for a crisis. It is not the right policy for the time that we have now. And so sometimes unlearning is harder than learning, and I'm going to keep at it.
Okay, so President Lagarde, how do you think about the best levers to boost growth in the Eurozone right now?
Capital Market Union, 28th regime, and boost the venture capital. Okay, so that would be on the growth front. But I would like to add one thing. Thanks to the veterans at this podium and a few other people, we have a strong, solid, robust banking system, which is strongly, well-regulated, well-supervised. And I think we should be cautious about what we are throwing away by way of simplification. So we do simplify things, and I'm delighted that, for instance, the ECB has done away with 40 different set of declaration disclosures that were unnecessary out of the 130 plus. So we have to go through that process. But I think we have to be cautious about how risks actually move. And risks were squarely in the banking system back in 2007-8 when we were all together fighting this global financial crisis. Risks travel fast, and there is no limit to the imagination of those in the financial sector who are trying to make money, as is their business, and who are taking risks. The question is really who eventually ends up taking the risk and sweeping the mess. So I would contend that this regulatory work that we did at the time, we need to be very attentive, as Andrew suggested, to make sure that the risks that have moved and traveled afar through different structures, bodies, and the different names are also looked at carefully, and that the right measures are taken to protect the public good and to protect the principle of who takes risks bear the responsibility that goes with it.
The other big topic that I know that you all think about and is part of your remit is the balance sheet. And Chairman Warsh, you had talked about before you became Fed chairman that the balance sheet was too big in the United States. So it's at 6.7 trillion right now. What level would you be comfortable with it at?
No forward guidance.
No forward guidance, and I'm not going to get into the balance sheet. Okay, we're just among friends. We have a task force for that too.
Great. We're going to play drinking game on task force.
I'll say this: there is no secret that from the 2011 period when I was leaving the Fed through now, I wanted the Fed's balance sheet to be smaller, and I long wrote about and described. Interest rates should be the dominant means through which we make monetary policy. If we're in a crisis, there could be a different set of rules. It's always struck me that interest rate policy is the fairest of the broad constellation of our citizens. Interest rate policy, whether we move it up or down, transmits its way into a new mortgage, credit card debt, transmits its way through a lending channel and credit channel. I've always had a view that the balance sheet works mostly through asset prices, works mostly through signaling effects. My 4 weeks at the Fed haven't disabused me of that idea. As we're hearing an alarm, that must be my way of saying that I've gone too far on the balance sheet. But we have a task force that you'll find out of outside people that are going to debate this topic, bring it back to my colleagues and me, to see whether we can have a judgment about whether the balance sheet should be made smaller. The only thing I'll repeat here, which I've said repeatedly, is if there's a change in balance sheet policy, it'll be a change of my colleagues of the FOMC and the board. Those decisions will be well deliberated publicly, well understood, and will not be implemented until financial markets have come to understand what those are. It took us about 18 years to find our way into this big balance sheet, which again, in my biased view, borders on fiscal policy. Took us 18 years to get out of it. It'll take us more than 18 weeks to bring it down to size. I'm open-minded on the question. We're not going to prejudge it, but I want interest rate policy to be the working oar for monetary policy.
Governor Bailey, you've been focused on the balance sheet. I guess at one point we were asking how big can your balance sheets get, and now I'm wondering how small they can get.
Well, look, there's a nice sort of sense of irony I appreciate from this conversation, because I've been accused of having too big a balance sheet and reducing it too quickly. So, well, really. So can I go back to forward guidance for a moment, because I've really eschewed forward guidance on the balance sheet. So I really don't step into this world as saying we want ample reserves, we want big reserves, small reserves. My line has always been that we will meet the system's demand for reserves, because that's the system's demand for liquidity. Now, we will also spend a lot of time, by the way, understanding why the system wants the liquidity it wants. And also, the key other point, which Kevin has made very forcefully, is that's the way we actually implement monetary policy, through the short-term interest rate, transmitting out of our balance sheets into the system. And that works very well. So, our world is, look, we will meet the system's demand for reserves. We will seek to understand very closely why it's doing that. The other policy I have is that I want to take interest rate risk off the central bank's balance sheet, because, with a public balance sheet, interest rate risk should be in the market, not on our balance sheet. And so that's why we're moving to a repo asset side of our balance sheet, because that takes the interest rate risk off our balance sheet, which is what should be the case.
You mentioned you alluded to the political heat that you get over this issue. Does that influence the way you think about it at all? I know it's not supposed to.
No, I think we must have a sensible policy for moving to a system where our balance sheet reflects the system's demand for reserves. So yes, it went above that level during the QE period. It's coming down to that level. I want the interest rate risk off our balance sheet. Those are the policies we're pursuing, and I think those are the right policies.
Staying in politics, do you get let off the hook, Governor Macklem, because the Prime Minister used to be in this seat?
We get some free advice from elected officials across the country. And, as I tell them, I appreciate understanding what's going on. It's a big country. I appreciate understanding what's going on across the country, but I don't appreciate telling me what we should do with interest rates. You've got your job, we've got our job, and that needs to be respected. So,
all right, we're gonna start playing some more of the news, but before I do that, please go to my store and get the Clarity Factor. Clarity Factor gets rid of that brain fog. It allows you to concentrate on tasks. It's going to help to improve the positive neuroplasticity, where your dendritic connections improve. You're going to be able to think faster, have better memory. This is a supplement you should be taking every day. Now, if you do things that have very high cognitive demand, like studying or engineering or something like this, I would recommend taking it in the morning and in the mid-afternoon. But for most people, taking it in just once a day, either in the morning or in the afternoon, is advisable. Please go to my store, get the Clarity Factor. This is a very powerful supplement. It's going to help your brain function. Another great supplement, if you're 40 years of age or older, is to take vitamin B complex. Vitamin B complex will boost up your energy levels. The first 4 B vitamins helps the electron transport chain to improve your ATP. You're going to have more energy, and with that energy, your cells are going to be able to perform better, your tissues are going to perform better. Your cellular metabolism will be revved up. In addition, vitamin B complex protects neurons with vitamin B12. So this is another great way to protect your neurons. Myotrol. Myotrol will help to build muscle. It has polyphenols, flavonoids, and lignans to help with the gene expression to build and maintain muscle. It also helps to recover after a workout because it brings down inflammation. And myotrol helps the health of the mitochondria so you have more ATP to maintain those muscles. If you're 40 years of age, building muscle is hard. And you lose muscle easily. It's called atrophy. Myotrol will reverse that. Myotrol will help to build that muscle and maintain that muscle. So this is really important to take. Now, building muscle through doing resistance training will also help to build denser bone. That's really important. Make sure you do back exercises where you're building back muscles. When you're building back muscles, you're improving your posture, you're improving your venous return flow to your heart, and you are improving lymphatic flow. So you're helping your immune system and cardiovascular system. By doing exercises that improve your calf muscles and your leg muscles, you're also helping to get that venous return flow. Your second heart is your calf. A lot of people don't realize that. So strong calf muscles is indicative of better cardiovascular health. But building muscle also helps with brain function because your concentrations of myokines and BDNF are neuroprotective. They will help your brain. So you're getting better blood flow because your cardiovascular system is better. Your immune system is better because there's better venous, there's better lymphatic flow. And you have the higher concentrations of BDNF and myokines to protect the neurons. So please take my advice and get the myotrol. This stacks really well with gladiator barley if you want to build muscle. So a powerful stack to improve brain function is to take the myotrol, you'll gain muscle, but also protect your brain. The vitamin B complex with vitamin B12 is going to help to protect those neurons. And Clarity Factor will help you to get rid of that brain fog and improve positive neuroplasticity. It's a very powerful stack, and you get a lot of benefits. You'll have more energy, your cellular metabolism will improve, you get more musculature, and you're improving brain function. So please go to my store, get the Myotrol, vitamin B complex, and the clarity factor. Make sure you use discount 5, all caps, discount 5, and you get $5 off anywhere. Let's listen into CNN going over Trump's so-called corruption because he made some money in the currency, in the crypto market.
If you are using plastic phone mounts, you are damaging your car every day. Premium car owners refuse to use regular phone mounts. Here is why.
Trump just disclosing that he's earned over $1 billion from his crypto ventures. Now, this is according to an annual financial disclosure form that just came out, about 900 pages. So there's a lot in there. But it does include this: more than $526 million in income from World Liberty Financial, which is a crypto venture Trump co-founded with his son. So take a look at this chart by top economic analyst Steve Ratner. He actually created this. Steve did before tonight's disclosure. I was looking at it. Then this happened. It was like, wait, we got to look at this. So let me tell you what it says. So what Steve did is put in blue how much money Trump's family has gained from crypto. That's the upper line there. In red, that's the line of how much investors have lost. About the same amount, more than $2 billion. Our friend now, Ty Cobb, he is the former Trump White House lawyer. Ty, pretty interesting there when you look at that chart and how much Trump has made and how much everyone else has lost. What is your reaction to the scale of what we're seeing in this disclosure, of how much Trump is earning from these crypto ventures? Over $1 billion last year alone, right? This isn't a cumulative number. It's in 1 year. An industry he's actively promoted and supported and done policy executive orders related to. Is it legal?
It's legal.
I don't believe so. Certainly, I don't think it was contemplated by the founders when they created the emoluments clause. I do think that one of the line items, of course, is the commemorative coins. Several $100 million of income related to those coins. How can that be anything other than trading on his image and likeness in violation of the emoluments clause? With regard to the crypto, obviously that's, it's a slimy industry. Certainly the way he's going around it, where he creates policies that can only enrich himself and his family, is something that I think the average American should be staggered by. But you mentioned the scale, and I think the scale here is just, it's intentional. There's no question. I mean, we are seeing the greatest onslaught of corruption in the history of mankind in the last 18 months. We have the $1.8 billion that he and Todd Blanche tried to take from the American taxpayers through the phony settlement of a contrived controversy with which he was going to pay off his friend. This is somebody who every day is devoted to the accumulation of wealth and power. This is, you said, is 900. I think it's 937 pages. I could be off by a few, but it's got to be the longest disclosure in the history of the American presidency. And when you talk about the scale, you've got Hunter Biden, who if they traced every dollar that he was accused of ever having, he couldn't ante in the game that Trump is playing. Trump is playing with billions. They were playing with millions. And this disclosure, on top of the disclosure that he issued last month, where he listed recent trades, up to $750 million in trades, many of which involve government contractors. So the grift is on. It's stunning.
It's stunning, and you use the word, staggering, and it truly is just the scale of it, as you point out, Ty. I also want to point out the New York Post, obviously conservative editorial board there, and in a rare review, they just published a column.
First of all, I think the crypto market is a scam, so you just got to stay away from the crypto market. The NTF stuff, crypto, Bitcoin, all of that is just a scam. That's my opinion. All right. Now, right now Bitcoin's trading at 59. A lot of people are getting hammered when they bought into this at like 120,000, and Bitcoin's trading at 59,000 right now. A lot of people are exiting the market for Bitcoin, so stay away. Now, if you want to be a sophisticated trader, you short it, but just the average person stay away from Bitcoin. But let's talk about when Trump had this war in Iran, and we started learning that it took forever to make a Tomahawk missile. It takes 1 year to make 100 Tomahawk missiles. And he says that he's going to talk to the automakers to actually help the production of the missiles that we need to help to resupply. As an investor, it behooves you to listen to what he's saying. This is the reason why I do my show. If you want to go into individual stocks, start paying attention to who's making the military equipment, especially the automakers like GM. And if you just listen, you could make money too. Now, I prefer not to go into individual stocks. I'm more of a macro trader, not a micro trader. But the thing is that you can make some money if you just listen to the news. So instead of two people here, and Erin Burnett cut her teeth on CNBC before she went over to CNN. She's a business journalist. She knows the game. She understands, but she's a never Trumper. She's on CNN to push never Trump. Everything Trump does is bad. Now, I've stated that I think that Trump has been failing in his presidency and needs to act like a president instead of like a hoodlum. I think that cage match that was on the White House lawn was unacceptable for the proper etiquette of a president. I think he's failed with the MOU with Iran. I think we should have destroyed Iran and used gravity bombs and not smart bombs and leveled Tehran. I'm an America First expansionist, not America First pacifist. Now, you got this lawyer that doesn't know how to shave his mustache. And you got Erin Burnett that is an ever-Trumper, trying to find something. He must have done something wrong. But it's in a blind trust. So Trump doesn't do the trades. And so all you got to do is just be like the one that's running the blind trust. Listen to the news, what's Trump doing, and he's telling you where to move your money. He literally told you that once peace starts to happen in this Iran war, that the oil market will drop. I made a ton of money in shorting oil. Why? Because I listened to the news. And for people that listened to what I was telling, you would have done the same. If you actually did what I was doing, if you actually listened to what I was saying, I tell you support levels and resistance levels and this whole wild ride. And believe me, it wasn't easy, but I made a ton of money. These clowns don't get it. Listen to the news and you'll make money. And by doing that, you will no longer have to be a fucking slave to the system.
Biden-style sleaze is just as slimy when the Trump boys do it. They go on to call what's happening here the shame of the nation, and they say it stinks to high heaven. Now, specifically what they're talking about, Ty, here, because it's hard to keep track of all of these deals. This one that they're writing this editorial about is the billion-dollar mining deal we just found out between Trump and Kazakhstan that Trump's sons stand to profit from, according to the New York Times. And the New York Times goes on to report that there are at least 14 companies, 14, tied to Trump and Howard Lutnick, his Commerce Secretary's son, actively working with the federal government right now on critical mining deals, making incredible amounts of money. I mean, do you think that I would imagine you agree that with the New York Post that it stinks to high heaven and it's the shame of the nation?
It is the shame of the nation, and people should be paying attention. I mean, look back at
managers, the money managers in the blind trust are listening to the news. And Trump is telling everybody. It's not like he's got insider information. He's going to say, hey, blind trust manager, put 10,000 shares in SpaceX or whatever. It's not like that. His money managers are listening. And the president is telling the American public, Joe Blow and Blow Jane, right, that, hey, you might want to look in this way. You might, he kind of winks in the news if you pay attention. Now, it doesn't mean that it's going to be immediate. It has to kind of ferment or germinate, whichever metaphor you want to use, before you can cash in. But it happens. It happens. The same thing when the taxes took place, when this whole tariff issue was taking place last year in April. And and the market sold off, and everyone was saying, "Oh, you got to take the money out and move it to Europe, and and the bond market's going to crash." And I said, "Don't bet against America and buy. If you listen to me, which is what I did, everything that I do, I tell you what to do. I'm doing it. Same thing with the supplements. I do what I say. You would have made a ton of money. But yet all these podcasters saying doom and gloom. Don't bet against America. I'm telling you, don't bet against America. And you're probably going to make quite a bit of coin by going into defense stocks because they got to rearm. They have to rearm. We use a lot of munitions in Iran. Wake up. So why is this lawyer whining about Trump? Why is Aaron whining about Trump? Why don't they do what I'm doing and say, America public, you should do the same. You should actually think about taking control of your own finances. Don't be a slave to the system. Working for someone is no different than being a slave. That's modern day slavery. No matter if you're a lawyer, a doctor, a physician, if you are a professor, I don't care what your profession is. An accountant, a dentist, if you do not own the business, you're a slave.
The Iran war, shouldn't have been started, but once it was started, what did we learn? We learned that the Trump sons have a drone company and become a huge government contractor. You hear this Kazakhstan deal announced. It was announced in November of 2025 when the $1.6 billion in financing was disclosed. What we didn't know was that the Trump sons, just a few weeks earlier, actually just days before the deal was announced, had acquired an interest in a company that had a substantial portion, part of that deal. And they've only gotten closer corporately with the people that are involved in that deal. So, we see the 14 companies that you were talking about, that the Trump sons or the Lutnick sons, have an interest in. The amount of guaranteed financing from the United States government for the 14 companies that are pursuing those deals, $9 billion. So yes, people should pay attention. It is staggering. It does stink. And I think when the Democrats take Congress, which hopefully they will, we'll get some answers as to how this all came about. And hopefully people will start to pay attention.
I mean, $9 billion. Now, of course, what we hear from the Trump sons will not be surprising. Eric Trump and Donald Trump Jr. told the New York Times they weren't involved in the specifics of this billion-dollar deal. Eric Trump says he's been a passive investor with absolutely no management role. Now, the New York Post says it comes after Don Jr. and other Republicans spent years, obviously, bashing Hunter Biden's work with Burisma. But, what I'm curious about, Ty, is when we keep hearing again and again from whether
it's not even compared. Hunter Biden was put on the board with zero experience. And there was probably some kickbacks that were going on there. with the whole, and then you're talking about the Iran war and, the overthrow of the government in 2014 and there was lots more complications going on with Ukraine and the corruption in Ukraine. How can you make the comparison between Hunter Biden and Burisma and a blind trust investing in crypto? This is what I mean. The media hates Trump so much. Now, Trump has problems. I think he's failing as a president right now. But the thing is this, stop whining. Stop whining.
Lutnick Sons, they don't know the details. They're passive investors. It's not the first time we've heard this.
No, and just because that they're not wearing a hard hat with a lantern or using a pick, that doesn't mean that this isn't their deal. They're in line to make millions and millions of dollars. The Lutnicks have already made millions of dollars in terms of the fees that they charged for financing this deal. So they can try to deny their involvement all they want, but the reality is their companies are in these deals. And they're benefiting from what the companies earn in terms of revenue and profit.
New York Times investigation found that the families of President Trump and the Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick stand to profit from a $1.6 billion mining deal with Kazakhstan. Last year, the president and Secretary Lutnick signed a deal with Kazakhstan that gave a little-known American company.
Now think about that. If this is the reason why you need to pay attention to foreign affairs. You need to pay attention to history. You need to pay attention to the news or the noise. There are signals in the noise that will tell you what to do. We keep on saying that rare earth metals are a big problem for our military. We need to secure. We're having issues with trade with China. They have rare earth metals. We need to find a different supplier. So why don't you use Grok and type in which countries have the rare earth metals that we need for our military industrial complex? And then start looking at the mosaic and saying, which companies are actually mining rare earth metals outside of China? And then take a look at if they're on the stock market. And if they are, maybe you should invest. But that was telegraphed 6 months ago, 8 months ago. It was telegraphed during the tariff crisis. Because what was happening? We kept on saying, we are having a problem with rare earth metals. And China was using that as leverage against us. Use the news to make money. Don't be stupid. Don't be the average stupid American. But the media is like going, well, there must be some sort of impropriety. You could have done what Trump did. You could have done what the blind trust manager did if you paid attention to the news. That's the whole point of my show. Now, I don't go into the micro detail of which company to go into. I'm more macro trader. But the thing is that the signal is there in the noise. It always has been. And the ones that make money, the ones that actually get escape velocity so they're not a slave, are the ones that can tease out the signal. And it's not like an equation where it's some sort of deterministic thing. There is an innate ability to do it. It's not Newtonian physics. It's not deterministic. It's more intuitive. But the ones that practice this, the ones that pay attention and become successful in teasing out the noise, you will no longer be a slave. Slavery has nothing to do with your color or your skin. It has everything to do with Do you have to have a paycheck? That's slavery. And the media keeps you enslaved. They want to demonize what's going on. But the people that actually turn the world in finance are the ones that listen to the noise. The ones that tease out the signal. But they want to say, oh, no, don't do that. That's bad. But yet, it was telegraphed a year ago what to do with rare earth metals.
Access to one of the world's largest untapped reserves of tungsten, a critical metal needed to make missile warheads, fighter jets, and computer chips. Within weeks, the sons of both Trump and Lednick also became financially connected to the deal. The Times is exclusively reporting one or both families now have financial ties to at least 14 companies involved in critical mining deals with the government. Joining me now is New York Times investigative reporter Eric Lipton, who's on the byline by that report. So, Eric, can you just walk us through the key points of your reporting here?
Well, we've already reported about how the Trump family moved into cryptocurrency and has made, more than $1 billion, most likely. They separately are now working as a defense contractor through Don Jr. And here's a whole entire new landscape that the family is looking to make money, and that's in the critical metals. The United States is investing, tens of billions of dollars to try to increase the supply of these metals because China is restricting access to them. They are very vital to the U.S. economy. So it makes sense that this is something that was started in the Biden administration.
I don't know why they're whining. Because guess what? The clubs, like the Bilderbergs, the Bilderberg Group, or some very prestigious private clubs in Europe, Chatham House, think tanks like Davos. There is information that is happening in those think tanks. Deals are happening. Plans of where the economy is going in the next 5 years. Potentially war in certain regions. All that information from those think tanks, CSIS, CFR, Trilateral, if you pay attention and tease out the signal, you will make money. And it's been doing that. It's been like that since before Rothschilds. You're talking hundreds of years it's been like this. It's been like this since 1500s. The 1500s. Information leads to wealth. Information leads to wealth. Not hard work. Information leads to wealth. Hard work leads to a paycheck. Information leads to wealth. Now, for the last several hundred years, it was only a select few people, ones that went to prestigious schools, ones that ended up getting into finishing clubs or private clubs, such as, let's say secret societies, stuff like this. If you were a part of that for the last few hundred years, you would have had the information to be able to make money. Now, that doesn't mean that all deals make money. Some deals go sour, but you have asymmetric information. Trump broke that, and he is leaking out the signal. But there's a lot of people that aren't paying attention. Now, once he's gone, that signal from the presidency is going to go away. And you're going to have to pay attention more to the closed society information. Well, why doesn't Mr. Yale, Anderson Cooper, say this to the American public? He's worth, I don't know, probably more than $100 million. He's Vanderbilt. Now the Vanderbilts blew up all their money, wasted it, so he had to work. But he's done pretty well for himself. He's smart. He's a Jeopardy, he's a Jeopardy grand wizard. He's not dumb. Why doesn't Anderson Cooper say this? Why doesn't Anderson Cooper say, you know what? Listen to the signal. Do what Trump's doing.
That this be done. But at the same time, as the U.S. government is moving to put tens of billions of dollars into companies to help them, build out new mines in the United States and around the world, the Trump sons have started to invest in the same sector, not only in the sector, but in some of the companies.
They're investing in America. They're investing in America. They're investing in the American future. That's what they're doing. And everybody can do that. Everybody. So they're butthurt that they made money by investing in America. Remember what I said? Never, ever, ever bet against the United States. Ever.
Government is backing. And separately, the family of Howard Lutnick, the Commerce Secretary, is helping a bunch of these companies raise capital in the private sector. So both of them are touching these deals. Now, the Lutnick family is not actually directly involved in the Kazakhstan deal, but they're helping one of the partners in the Kazakhstan deal raise more than $200 million in just around the same time as Dad Lutnick was helping negotiate something that was going to benefit the same businessman. So, what you're seeing, a crossing of interest of the government actions and the family private interest, which is something we've seen a number of times in this administration, but it's quite unusual in American history.
And there's an Australian-born rabbi somehow at the center of this, according to your reporting.
That's right. So there's an...
Why are you still using bots for your meetings? How else am I going to remember what happened? Just use granola. Okay, what's granola? With granola, you get all the benefits of it.
That's right. So there's an Australian executive who is in the mining sector, and he's the one that negotiated access in Kazakhstan to these deals. And he also was the co-founder of a separate company called USA Rare Earths, and he's also a shareholder there that's also slated to get billions of dollars. And Lutnick went out of his way to try to get the Kazakhstan government to give this contract to his company. So he's benefiting from potentially as much as like $5 billion worth of U.S. assistance. And his business partners include Donald Trump Jr. and Eric Trump. So it just, again, it's very unusual to see direct financial interest from the family of the president and from the Commerce Secretary that are intermixed with some of these, enormous deals with taxpayer dollars on the line.
At the end of the day, are there any limits to what they can do? Is anybody going to, is there any oversight, any regulatory agency to stop them?
I'm sure that there will be Democrats in Congress that will send letters asking for information about this, which will probably not be responded to. There's not going to be any investigation by the current administration. And none of this is actually necessarily explicitly illegal, because Lutnick's two sons are adults and they have their own businesses, and the president, under law, has no conflicts of interest. He's exempt from the criminal conflict of interest law.
So if they didn't do anything wrong, why are they making a big thing out of it? Oh, they're butthurt that they didn't make all the money. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the Boomer Boost. This has 68 nutrients that you need daily to slow down the aging process, help with brain function, help with cardiovascular health, help with musculature, rev up your metabolism, soak up free radicals, bring down inflammation. It's going to boost up that immune system and help with your endocrine system. This has all the vitamins and minerals that you need on a daily basis, with a lot of other compounds to help improve your health. Take this every day. It's a powder. You can mix it with soft foods. I mix it with yogurt, but you can mix it with, I mix it with hummus. You can also mix it with yogurt or applesauce. Some people put it in filtered water. You can put it with milk. What I've been recently doing, because the weather has been so hot, I've been also using it in iced coffee. I and just mix it in the iced coffee. There's many ways to take this, but take it every day. And if you suffer from migraine headaches, try this. You'll notice that the severity of the migraine and the frequency of the migraines will go down. So please, go to my store, get the Boomer Boost. This brings down inflammation. This is going to also help with A1C levels, controlling your blood glucose levels. Now, take this stack. This is a very powerful stack to slow down the aging process, and you can also stack it with the Boomer Boost. Lignans, soaks up free radicals, brings down inflammation, helps with the immune system and the endocrine system. Turmeric, soaks up free radicals, brings down inflammation. Are you noticing a theme here? And ashwagandha root brings down the cortisol levels and helps to control the blood glucose levels. When you do this, you stack this. It's a very powerful stack. You're going to recover after a workout very quickly. You're going to be healing faster. You'll also notice that your immune system and your endocrine system is performing better. You're bringing down free radicals and bringing down inflammation. That's going to be good for your joints, your brain function, and your cardiovascular system. By bringing down inflammation and soaking up free radicals, you're reducing plaque formation. So you're getting better blood flow to your organ systems, including your brain. This is a very powerful stack. I highly recommend taking this stack every day. Ashwagandha root, the lignans, and the turmeric. You can take them separately, but there is a synergistic benefit for taking this. And you can stack it with the Boomer Boost. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com.
The government, and that would be inappropriate, but it's unclear if it would be explicitly illegal.
And what has the White House said about your reporting?
They said that the president has no conflicts of interest and that his sons are businessmen who are entitled to pursue whatever business they want to, which is, it's basically, there's a, they have rejected again and again and again. Every time, we or other news organizations have written stories that examine the overlaps, they say that there are no conflicts and that these are, the president's sons are entitled to pursue whatever, profits they want.
Karen, I mean, obviously we know the president's been raking in a lot of money. It's amazing to see the details. Yeah. Even those Bibles he's been hawking have brought in like $200,000 plus.
Yeah, he's doing very well. The presidency has been very good for his bottom line. And, as I've always said, this is a coin-operated presidency, really. And you just put money in and to give to him, and then he gives you other things. And this is exactly what's happening with the crypto stuff, which is he's getting a fee no matter what, even though the value of the crypto has gone down now 83%, so everybody else loses. So he's taking from the people who buy it. And at the same time, this deal with the UAE is just astonishing. They're getting what they need for what is essentially, they're paying him in order to get something else. And so he can do this all day long. They're doing it in Kazakhstan. The New York Times had a great piece about that. They're doing it all over the place where they are.
Yeah, right. That's another deal that they're making in Kazakhstan, that the Trump's sons are involved with a whole bunch of other businesses related to it.
Well, everywhere. What they do is they go in advance of Trump showing up and do some kind of deal with whatever country. It doesn't matter. They go around from country to country, shaking people down. This is, it's a VIG is what's happening here. And if you know where that term comes from, that's exactly what's happening here. He's getting a VIG for everything he does as president.
Yeah, it's a loan sharking term too, or muffing term too. Jeff, does all this raise any legal concerns or just certainly ethical concerns, but he can do this, right?
Well, the Supreme Court has said that any official action he takes may not be the subject of criminal charges, and it can't even be investigated. And if we can just talk about crypto, the regulation of crypto is one of the hottest issues being dealt with in the executive branch now. So he is in charge of regulating something that is putting literally billions of dollars in his pocket. But regulating crypto is an official action of the executive branch. So under the decision of Trump v. United States, he can do whatever he wants. He can open a lemonade stand on the front lawn of the White House and take public payments in return for regulatory changes. But because that's an official action, he's immune from prosecution.
Well, that's such a ridiculous example. Like, the next thing you're going to say is that he would be selling commemorative coins for a UFC fight on the front lawn of the White House.
Yeah.
But that would never happen.
That would never happen.
Yeah.
Kara, do other countries look at what the UAE is doing with the president's crypto and look at what Qatar did with the jet and realize there is a very real way to put money in the pocket of the president of the United States? I mean, people who are looking for pardons certainly know there is an avenue to getting pardons this way as well.
And there's the pardon scam. That's the other thing that's going on, that's happening, where he's getting payments or things to his political committees and things like that. And of course, the tech people knew this right away. You put in 25 million or 200 million, you get out billions in contracts. This is a paper play situation. And the question is whether you can't do anything about it, because no one ever imagined someone could be this, greedy, essentially, on the public dole. And so we're all paying for it. Just like he said, everything was in the East Wing was going to be paid for by private donations. In fact, it's the public that's paying for that. It's the public who's paying for what's going on at the Kennedy Center. And even the reflecting pool. This is all, it's coin operated is what it is. You put money in and you get stuff you need out. And everyone's onto it, from the tech people to the Kazakhs to whoever it happens to be. And that's what's happening.
Now, if I could just add one point of possible accountability, the Constitution is still in effect, and the Constitution defines impeachable offenses as treason, bribery, and other high crimes and misdemeanors. This looks an awful lot like bribery. UAE puts in money, gives them a plane, gets stuff in return. The crypto business.
Qatar was playing. You gotta keep track of all the grift.
Sorry, UAE is the crypto. I don't think, certainly the Congress in its current state of Republican control is not going to do anything, but bribery is specifically mentioned in the Constitution, and this looks an awful lot like bribery.
But at the end of the term, as Joe Biden pardoned his, family members, they'll just pardon everybody, proactively. And there's nothing, for people who think, well, afterward there'll be investigations and the like, there can just be blanket pardons, right, Joe?
The president has already said, I think in Maggie Haberman's new book, there's a line where he says, I'm going to pardon everyone who came within 25 feet of the Oval Office, or some words to that effect, that he's pardoning everybody so that if there's a Democratic administration, they can't prosecute anyone. Whether he actually will do that, who knows, but it's just indicative of the fact that the lack of accountability that we're seeing in the current administration is likely to continue regardless of who wins the next election.
Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the collagen. This will help with the health of your skin, nails, and hair, musculature, bone density, and joints. Really important to take every day. I highly recommend that you take the collagen and stack it with the vitamin C and magnesium and drink filtered water so you're improving your dermal layer. You can also improve your skin, not just with the dermal layer, but taking the C60 and the resveratrol to help with the basal layer. That's where your new skin cells are being generated. So the basal layer will be healthy through the C60 and the resveratrol. The dermal layer will improve through the vitamin C and the collagen, drinking the filtered water because they cross-link, and topically using the structural nanosilver gel. That's a great way to improve your skin and to slow down the aging process, but you get other benefits from taking the collagen. So please go to my store and get the collagen. It's great to help remodel the joints, especially if you stack it with the collagen that I have, that I'll talk about later. Barley. I have Gladiator barley and heirloom barley. Now the heirloom barley will help to detoxify your body, use it daily, bring down inflammation, soak up free radicals. That's going to help with your immune system and your endocrine system. But when you bring down stress by detoxifying, by bringing down inflammation, by soaking up the free radicals, you're helping with brain function, you're helping with the cardiovascular health, helping with your immune system and your endocrine system. Gladiator barley, you get all the benefits in heirloom barley, but one extra. This will help to build muscle. You can stack this with Myotrol to help to build the muscle. This is a great way to stay healthy, stay fit. And if you're an athlete, younger or older, you'll also benefit from taking Gladiator barley and stacking it with the Myotrol. You'll be able to gain the strength that you need for your sport. Now, when I was in triathlons, this wasn't available. If I was doing triathlons today, I'd be taking Myotrol and the Gladiator barley together as part of my daily routine to gain strength for my sport. So I highly recommend it. If you have a child that's getting into sports like football, soccer, hockey, I highly recommend taking the Myotrol and the Gladiator barley together. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Use discount 5 and get $5 off any order. And by taking these supplements regularly, you're going to be able to slow down the aging process and get healthy and have more vitality, more longevity. All right, let's listen into the falling oil prices. Oil is trading at oil is trading at 68.72.
We're back in front of our live studio audience to help celebrate America's 250th birthday. A record number of Americans are expected to hit the road this holiday weekend, just as California drivers are paying more at the pump.
All right, the state's gas tax is up 2.2% a gallon, adding to the highest gas tax in the country. Interior Secretary Doug Burgum has some advice for you. So if anybody's driving for the 4th of July holiday, here's a tip. If you want to save over 50 cents on a gallon of gas, fill up in a red state. The average price in red states is 50 cents lower than it is in blue states. But blue states, and I say blue states, those are states controlled by state legislatures that have adopted policies of less energy subtraction as opposed to energy addition. President Trump, his energy policy laying the foundation for peace in the Middle East.
Yeah. And let's bring in Charles Payne. He's the host of Making Money. And Charles, the president has said his goal is $2.50. America $2.50. His goal for gas is $2.50.
We can get close to that before the end of the year. I mean, look how quickly crude has come down. At one point, we spiked to 121. We came down very quickly. It was always, even with the worst headlines, right around early March, late April, just something, late March, early April, something turned. And, the market's been convinced that the conflict would be short-lived. And, we're coming down quickly. We're already at 70. I think we'll be at 62, 60 by the end of the year on crude. And that's going to translate into much cheaper gasoline.
We got 45 ships through the strait yesterday. So the gases and oil go in the right direction, even though you can't trust Iran, and we might end up in a conflict. But the big picture you say is look at the market. There's something going on here.
Well, it's 250 years. We just closed out the second quarter. The NASDAQ was up 21%. The S&P was up 16%. Wait, you talk about American exceptionalism on display. This is amazing, absolutely amazing. The amount of money that's being made right now, the companies that have been resurrected. Think about Micron, a company born in 1979 in Idaho. Someone in Idaho said, I want to do a semiconductor company. They barely survived. Ronald Reagan kept them in business, right? Because he pushed back against the Japanese, and now the hottest company in the entire world. All of this stuff
because of storage, right?
Because of memory. But guess what's moving now? The robots. Everyone in this audience will have a robot within the next 5 to 10 years.
No.
I'm telling you right now.
You mean I have a Roomba? Is there something better than a Roomba?
You gotta get rid of the Roomba because the Chinese want it, okay? Here's the bottom line. These stocks anticipate greatness, and it's starting to happen right now. These robot stocks are going through the roof already. They're going to be in everyone's home, the humanoid robots, the other robots. Quantum, I talked to you about this 2 years ago, through the roof.
Robots will be the next car. So when Henry Ford created the car, created the Model T, everyone wanted it. Same thing's going to happen with robots. But the thing is, it's not everyone. is going to be able to afford it right away. And it's going to take some time to actually have it diffuse in the market. The early adopters will be paying a higher price. But over time, after a few upgrades, the robots will be running more efficiently, be more robust. But in 10 years, I can see a good percentage of the population having a robot, maybe 40% of the population in the United States. I can see that in 10 years. In 5 years, it's only going to be the wealthy that have it. The uber wealthy and upper middle class, but not everybody within that will have it. They won't feel comfortable having it in their home, or don't want to pay for it, or whatever, waiting for the next upgrades, the next generation of the technology. But when you have something new, it takes a while for it to diffuse. Not everybody had a Model T right away. It took some time for cars to diffuse. And homes will have to be redesigned in such a way where if you have a family of 4 and then all of a sudden you buy a robot, where is the robot going to be? In the garage? In the basement? Do they have their own room? There's some social dynamics that we haven't really talked about with a, quote, robot in your home. So it's going to take 10 years for, quote, mass adoption, not 5 years. It'll be available within 5 years, but it's not going to be, there won't be mass adoption of it in 5 years. And it'll be more like in the 10-year mark.
Phenomenal. So listen, this is Tesla. Tesla's going to run with the robot stocks. They have this Optimus, which ultimately they may be taken over by SpaceX.
But Charles, there is an entire movement that want to stifle creativity. And the people that are making money within this stock market, they want to take that wealth away and give it to other people. Right. This 250, what's your message to those people?
Well, my message is that take a quick look at Germany. If you look at the top 10 stock markets in the world, only 2 are in Europe. Only 2. Imagine that. Only 2. I think it's France and the UK. They're sliding off. They're sliding off. Why? Because of those policies that all they do is punish success. All they do is harm success, tax it, intimidate it. In our country, what I love is since 2020, the bottom 50% of Americans had 150 billion in the market. Fast forward 5 years later, we're at 600 billion. It's the bottom. By the way, it's still only 1% of the market. This is how you want to, if you talk about shared prosperity, we talk about politicians all the time. Shared prosperity isn't taking it from Brian and giving it to someone else. Shared prosperity is we all benefit from the backdrop of America where all this greatness is being created.
Let our audience benefit from you. Let's go to Edie. Edie, you have a question for the great Charles Payne, ladies and gentlemen?
Yes. I want to know, because I heard you say gas prices will go down maybe by the end of the year, but when will they really go down?
Well, they have really started going down already for percentage-wise. Look at where we were a few weeks ago. Percentage-wise, this is a huge drop percentage-wise. Now, it feels like they go down slower than they go up. Remember, these only 30% are owned by large, Chevron. Over 60%, 65% are owned by mom-pop dealers. So they buy a bunch of gasoline at $75 a barrel, or let's say $80 a barrel. And you look at the news, well, golly, now it's down to 70. It went down so much. Well, they bought it already. This is the gas that they're selling you. They're not going to, these are mom-pop people struggling. So give them a chance to sell the gas that they paid for already, get this cheaper gas in, and pass on the savings to you.
Rise like a rocket, falls like a feather.
Exactly. It takes about a month and a half, 2 months to see the effects of lower oil prices translated to gasoline, because the refineries were processing gasoline that's currently on the market at a higher cost. So it's going to take a little while. There's a lag. But people, they don't think. They just think everything is immediate. Everything's immediate. No, there's lags. It takes time. You need lead time to do things. And maybe it's because of the environment I was in as a kid or and as an adult. I was surrounded by professionals. I was surrounded by engineers. I was surrounded by people that built things. So It was just common sense, very scientific environment that I was raised in. I was shocked during the crisis in 2020 how stupid people were in terms of not understanding science, not understanding mathematics, not understanding biology, not understanding history, not understanding some of the things that they should have learned in high school. But that comes to the point that I've been making for a long time. 20% of the population or less in the United States actually moves the ball forward. 80% is just riding the coattails of the 20%.
And where is Kevin? Kevin, what is your question?
How you doing, Charles? Long time. I watch you a lot on TV. What's your opinion? Has the tech stocks reached their climax, or are they still further? And are financials the next way to go?
Financial look phenomenal, particularly these bankers, because we've already topped the largest amount of money raised in IPOs, and we still have 6 months to go. So the investment banking revenues are going to be through the roof. So if you have the JP Morgans and the Goldmans of the world, you're solid. We spend so much time in financial media, and I think it's a damn shame, to worried about the top. When is it over? When is it over? When is it over? Instead of, are you participating? Are you in this? Because this window of opportunity is the most unique, powerful window of opportunity. Anyone in this audience, there'll never be a time like the next 5 years. The past 5 and the next 5, there'll never be a time like this. So I think there's a lot of runway. I'm looking at these companies, they report their earnings, and they're saying, hey, we can give guidance out to 2029, 2030. Every single day, Wall Street is ratcheting up their numbers. So I don't think we're anywhere near done right now.
All right, that's great news. Yeah.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.
All right, let's listen into CNN. 15-term Colorado Democrat rep knocked off by 29-year-old Democratic Socialist.
People want to know that they're electing someone who's in this work to fight for them, who they know cares about them. And the goal of our campaign was to break through. We broke through a lot of negative ads. We broke through a lot of noise because I believe in the power of people.
And then you had Mila Quiros beat a nearly 30-year incumbent Congresswoman Diana DeGette last night. Quiros, the latest Democratic Socialist to win their primary.
We believe that fundamental change can and will happen if we fight for it.
See, this is it. This is what I've been saying. I was mentioning about the composition of the country will be changing because of illegal immigration, with this birthright citizenship ruling by the Supreme Court. What are you noticing with Democratic Socialists in general? People of color. They're pushing an agenda through, and the Democratic Socialists are communists. It's just in a different name so they can be funded through the Democratic Party. And the Democratic Party internally needs to say, if you're a Democratic Socialist, you are no longer a Democrat and you don't get the funding for it and you're a third party. But they're a cancer or a parasite within the Democratic Party. But there is a common thing. People of color pushing an agenda. Now, what does Democratic Socialism mean? An erosion of a constitutional republic, because they're aligned with the philosophy of relativism. They believe in Karl Marx. They don't believe in capitalism. They don't believe in the Enlightenment. They want to create a society where you're either an oppressor or the oppressed. And if you're an oppressor, we have to take away your property. We have to take away your rights. Yet John Locke said it's about life, liberty, and property rights. So they're not aligned with the Enlightenment. Our country is about capitalism and is about the Enlightenment. That is the constitutional republic that our forefathers created. Now, it wasn't perfect. We're in this process of renewal to make a more perfect union, but it's predicated on some core beliefs, core principles, and a foundation. It's about the Enlightenment. It's about a constitutional republic. It's not about relativism and communism. And this is what you're getting. So this birthright citizenship through illegal immigration is going to change the face, literally, of the population of the United States in the future. And if we don't push back and stop this cancer, we are not going to have a constitutional republic. Just listen to them. They hate America. They hate God. They hate your family. They hate the country. When will the conservatives push back and hold the line? Now, I'm a direct descendant of one of the 55 founding members of our country that ratified the Constitution. I'm a direct descendant of one of them. It is in my DNA, literally, to get very, very, very pissed off with people like this.
If we organize and show no fear in standing up for what's right, that is the message that Denver has sent to both parties, to Donald Trump, and to the entire country.
So what I want. Lesser clippers, they're not hard enough, the angle is too high, they're not polished, they're not particularly sharp. You will never find another nail cutter on the market that can shave hair like that, like not even remotely close. Because with a really sharp tool, you get to
Country!
Zolan, I want to start with you because back a few months ago when there was infighting in the DNC itself, there were all these people that were like, I'm taking my toys and going home, right? Like David Hogg, I'm going to go spend my own money. Justice Democrats, we're going to recruit our own people. There was this real sense that there was going to be money spent elsewhere by different recruiters for different reasons. And I want to show the viewers right now how well Justice Democrats are doing, as it turns out. Primary winners, I think I'm looking at a count of up to 8 faces here. What are they doing differently than the DNC?
Yeah, it's interesting because that fight over spending, I do think, represented a broader fight over the direction of the Democratic Party.
Right,
and who should
look
lead.
at that.
And
you have 8 Democrat primary winners, and all of them are a person of color. And most of them are double minority because it's a person of color and a female. Now, this country is great because of its multitude of ethnicities. I don't want the country to be monolithic, but I do want our citizens to be aligned with capitalism, with the Enlightenment, to be aligned with God, country, and family, and to be aligned with the idea of a constitutional republic, not communism. This is a problem. This we have to fight against. Now, the Republican Party needs to get their act together and pass legislation that helps middle-class America. Unfortunately, the Senate and the House have a tendency to not get their act together. Now, the Democratic Party, middle of the road, they need to push back and stop being overrun by the left-wing nuts.
We're seeing with this series of wins, the ones you just outlined, but also we're coming a week after.
Those are in
Downey
Colorado,
sweep
New
in New
Jersey,
York.
California,
Right.
even Texas.
Right. Across the country. I do think the themes in these races speak to, they resonate with something broader in the Democratic base across the country, right? In the last presidential campaign, I would often hear from Democratic voters, they didn't feel people represented them. You just highlighted somebody who won a generational race, right? Yeah. She was born a year after the incumbent won her first race.
But with the views that come with that in some cases.
And that brings us to Israel as well. We have seen Israel and the issue of whether the Democratic Party will support U.S. support for Israel, that has resonated both in New York and these races.
I think I'm also fascinated by that because what happened with Kamala Harris and Biden is they truly struggled to talk about Israel and Gaza when that fight was at its height. Then you have someone like Milad Kiros. I want to play one more thing from her, this Colorado congressional candidate who had a win, because she uses an argument that you wouldn't have heard from the Biden administration last fall.
When I wrote a letter defending students' rights to protest the genocide in Gaza, my law firm told me, take it down or you're fired. I didn't flinch. We will not wait to put an end to the politics of the past, to get big money out of our politics, and to reject corporate PACs and APAC. And no, we will not wait.
How is this any different than what was going on during Mao in communist China? You know, with the Red Book, and they were trying to do a purge of the culture, their cultural purge. What about Ayn Rand when she wrote in Atlas Shrugged about when you start destroying the engine of commerce and start pushing all these social programs, the system fails. People leave. Where's John Gold? This is happening in real time. And authors and prior historical events have been warning us of this, but we weren't paying attention to the signal. And here we have. We're literally in the beginnings of a civil war in the United States. Whenever capital is threatened, there's war. It always happens that way. Always. When capital is threatened, there's war.
Genocide in Palestine!
So every key word, that's a problem for Democrats and a problem especially for people who are concerned about the rhetoric around Israel, punctuated by an actual air horn. I want to play one more thing, a voter. And then, Antoine, I want you to talk out of this.
I like to see that.
If you've been thinking about getting Pocket, this is your last chance to save 45%. At the tap of a button, it records and creates organized notes based.
I like to see that she has more socialist ideals.
I think people are tired of our tax dollars being spent overseas and on bombs to kill children.
I'm anti-APAC, and so I just wanted to vote for someone that was standing up against Israel, and I knew that the incumbent was for Israel, so I voted against her.
People like heroes.
Well, I do think that AIPAC is way too involved in our politics. But it's not just the Israeli PAC group. What is more important to focus on is that all PACs are a problem. Not just the Israeli PAC. All PACs are a problem. The campaign financing is an issue. This is how our elected officials are bought and captured, compromised. They don't really care about their own constituents. They really only care about the funding mechanism through the PACs. So it's a problem. Now, I'm against the Israelis being involved in our politics. But it's not just them. It's everybody. It's the defense contractors. The reality of the situation is that our health, because of the food that we eat in the United States, is partly due to the agricultural lobbying group. They want subsidies. They want to have certain ingredients in food to help that particular crop. More sugar content, more corn content, more corn syrup content. That's coming from the corn lobbying group or the sugarcane lobbying group. So it's not just the Israelis. It's the way K Street works in Washington, D.C. But you listen to the people that they're interviewing, you know, they have a kernel of truth and concern, but not very cognizant of the nuance of what's really going on. That one guy that had the sunglasses. Yeah, our tax dollars going to bomb children. I don't want that. The way he did his rock back and forth. Yeah. No. Sometimes you have to have war. And, oh, guess what? Israel doesn't deserve the land, but nor does the Palestinians. Whoever wins deserves the land. If you can protect your boundaries, you're the rightful owner. As the phrase goes, possession is 9/10 the law. If you win on the battlefield, guess what? That's your land. It's that simple. It's not about, well, we deserve it. Nature doesn't care what you deserve. It's just what is. That's how nature works. Yeah, but I don't want my tax dollars killing babies. What about letting terrorism metastasize around the world? Think that's okay too?
Setting more like compelling arguments about how to make this country better for everyone.
Couple of things. We're having a generational conversation and an ideological conversation in these primaries. I think the common denominator is that people are frustrated, people are pissed off, and we collective Democrats are against Donald Trump and the Republican majority. How we talk about these issues has defined these primaries. But I will make the continued argument that the most important thing for Democrats to remember is 218 is the name of the game. You can talk boldly and loudly about all of these policies, but if you cannot govern, if you do not win, and losers do not legislate. And when we talk about the way that some of our more progressive candidates who are winning in deep blue districts, the issues they are talking about are going to require them to have to compromise on what they believe if they want to respond to what they can.
Required you and the rest of the establishment, because that's where the money is going to have to come from.
Well, I don't consider myself establishment. I consider myself just a Democrat. I think we put these labels on folks, and I think that has been part of the somewhat division you see within primary. At the end of the day, when you go into the United States Congress, you're labeled as a Democrat versus Republican. We should anchor that there. But the second point is what we're seeing across the board. I think this is probably true in Republican primaries. It's easier to vote against something than it is to vote for something. So people are voting for who has been in charge and who they feel like are leading.
Have you answered that, especially to this point of looking at, like, for instance, the post-response to the Supreme Court upholding bans on trans athletes? This kind of follows what he's saying. It's easy to say no. No is easy to put in a headline. It's easy to put it in ad.
No, that's exactly right, Audie. And I think that candidates like this that are more radical, where the mask has come off, they're winning in deep blue districts, right? Zohar Mamdani is not running in Virginia. He's running in New York City, and the same thing here. It's going to be interesting to see how these new, more radically left-wing candidates fare in terms of the upcoming midterms. But it's also going to be interesting to see how they change the coalition for the Democratic Party. When President Trump came on the scene back, 10 years ago, he changed the makeup of the Republican Party. And I could see a lot of these higher propensity voters.
An example?
Please.
Here's an example of someone who thrives in the Trump era. The Colorado candidate for governor on the Republican side. These are the kinds of questions and back and forth he's dealing. I just want to play this for the audience before we go.
Your campaign website falsely claimed that you had rescued more than 45,000 women and children. You claimed that you once called in a U.S. military airstrike that killed 70 ISIS fighters. You perform exorcisms, commanding demons to come out of people. Your claim that your abusive stepfather forced you to kill a man when you were 7 years old, is that the only person you've ever killed?
Well, I would say as a child, yes.
It feels like the takeaway.
You have a choice to make. With AI, we have an opportunity to influence a future that will not be determined by machines only.
It feels like the takeaway for Republicans has not been radicals don't need them. It seems like it's like certain people are more than encouraged by the current environment.
I would ignore people like this.
Why? He's running for governor.
No, I know, but I'm from Illinois, right? And so what happens in these deep blue states where like Republicans basically give up on is
It's not Colorado, by the way. It's not deep blue, but go on.
Colorado's pretty blue, but look. I would look more to the states like Virginia and New York.
But then why run a guy like that?
Because a lot of the serious people are not running in Colorado. If I was a serious candidate for GOP,
not just run a guy, but he's leading in donations in that race as well.
Look,
money, donors, probably not from Colorado where they get money.
And what I will say is that the people, the actual voters, they feel like both establishments are screwing them over. They feel like they're getting behind further and further. And that's the Democrats and the Republicans.
Let's get right to CNN senior political analyst Mark Preston for the latest on all of this. This
country is falling apart. Thank God for the 20% that actually know what they're doing. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the structural nail silver toothpaste. This will whiten your teeth, freshen your breath, reduce inflammation at the gum line, improve your gum line health. It'll help the health of your oral hygiene. It'll improve that oral hygiene. And with good oral hygiene, you're reducing the chances of cardiovascular problems and valvular problems. Use this every day. It has no fluoride. It is the best toothpaste that you can get. It neutralizes because it has the structural nanosilver. It's really important to take during the cold season, but use it every day. Another thing that you should be using every day is either Cleanse, which is 30 parts per million, or Max 35, which is 35 parts per million, or Max 14, which is 14 parts per million. They're at different price points, but you use it the same way. Take a tablespoon of this, swish in your mouth, gargle 20 seconds, and swallow. It's really simple. What this does is it neutralizes, helps the health of your oral cavity, helps to maintain a mucosal barrier, and helps the health of your epithelial cells in your oral pharynx. Super important because this will boost up your innate immune system. I've been using this protocol every day for over 6 years. So take my advice, do this, and what this will do is boost up that immune system and neutralize. And if you're not as sick as often, you slow down the aging process. Just take a simple observation. Look at people that are sick all the time. They age faster. So please go to my store, studio-reykjavik.com, get the Max 35, Max 14, or Cleanse, and the Structural Nano Silver toothpaste. Use discount 5, you get $5 off any order.
Oh, something of a national trend we're seeing, Mark.
Well, you know, John, it's certainly not a one-off, and we've seen it over the past couple of weeks. There's been so much focus on New York City and Zoran Mamdani over the past year since his election, but we've seen that the progressive wing, the very liberal wing of the Democratic Party, is starting to push back against the establishment. If there was ever a generational shift, what we saw last night in Colorado, where Diana DeGette, who was considered a progressive in Congress, losing to somebody who is even farther to the left, shows you right now, as the Democratic Party has gone through 4 years of Donald Trump, again, has decided to push back against this anti-establishment. We've not only happened again in Colorado last night, we've seen it happen in Washington, D.C., we saw it happen in New York City, we've seen it happen in Georgia. We're seeing it happen all across the country right now. It's not a wave. Let us not tell anyone out there that it is a wave, but the fact of the matter is the Democratic Party right now is undergoing this whole transformation right now, and we're seeing these younger, more aggressive, progressive Democrats take on the establishment, John.
Yeah, look, you see an incumbent fall in a primary every now and then, but to see 3 lose in a week, that is remarkable. And you hear from almost any established Democrat, and they'll tell you this is where the energy in the party is right now.
No, it totally is. And you know, this pushback by the progressive wing of the party didn't just happen overnight. This goes way back to the Clintons. This goes back to the 90s, where Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton pushed the Democratic Party more to the center. We saw Barack Obama come in. For 8 years, the Democratic Party was unified. They had something to rally around. We saw Bernie Sanders take on Hillary Clinton back in 2016. That was not well accepted by the Democratic establishment. We saw Bernie Sanders run again in 2020. Look, what has happened is that the progressive wing over the past 4 to 6 years has tried to work with the establishment. They try to work within the bounds of the Democratic Party, and it hasn't worked, and that's why we're seeing this pushback right now.
Big problem. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, get the resveratrol. This will help to get that youthful gene expression, get rid of cells that are in senescence, soak up free radicals, help the health of your mitochondria. It'll increase your energy levels like ATP, and resveratrol helps the basal layer of your skin. This will slow down the aging process, and this stacks really well with C60. Omega-3 brings down inflammation, helps to control your lipid profile. And when you do that, you're reducing plaque formation, so your cardiovascular system will improve. And omega-3 helps to reduce stickiness of your red blood cells. So you're reducing clot formation. Zeolite. It's a great way to detoxify your body. You can take this every day, 3 small drops underneath your tongue, drink filtered water. This will bind to heavy metals, toxins, and chemicals, and allow you to urinate them out within 6 to 8 hours. This zeolite you can take every day. Some out there you can't, but this type you can. It's very high quality. Everything I sell is very high quality. So please take my advice, detoxify your body regularly. Drink filtered water, stay away from processed foods, and clean your environment in your home. Pay attention to the cleaning solutions you have, and if you need them, make sure they're in a double layered container. So please go to my store, get the zeolite. And for ones that have arthritic pain or muscle pain or even tension headaches, get the Super Strong Relief. This is a topical. You rub it on your arthritic area or where you pulled a muscle or a sprain, or even on your shoulders and your forehead if you have a tension headache. It's fast acting. It works within about 90 seconds. So please go to my store, get the Super Strong Relief to reduce the pain that you have. All right, let's listen into the Civil War with the GOP.
Republican hardliners blocked floor activity. Florida Congresswoman Anna Luna has long pressed leadership to attach the Save America Act to other bills so the measure would pass in the Senate. The Congresswoman joined me last Sunday and told me what she was about to do. Watch. Look, I know that you already passed the Save America Act out of the House, but it seems the Senate is just unwilling to take this on. What is the problem with the Senate, and why are they so unwilling or unable to extend and execute President Trump's agenda?
Look, you heard J.D. Vance say it best. It is a defeatist perspective to say, well, the votes aren't there, so we're not going to try. But it's equally the fault of the House. And I actually just messaged the Speaker and I said, look, we can't allow them to put a Senate bill on the floor that they're going to use in their re-elections without attaching the Save America Act to it. And I know that the President has been very vocal about this. And I do hope that if it does pass, we're going to try to stop it. We're going to try to attach the Save America to it. But he should actually veto it. Because the fact is that they're not doing their job. They are literally slapping the American people in the face. And this is an 80-20 issue. You want to talk about election integrity, you want to talk about national security. This is the one thing that we could do and deliver for the American people that is bipartisan and would help guarantee secure elections in the future.
Here comes the early cue. Joining me now is New York.
I'll keep this quick. We need a huge number of donations today to flip this U.S. Senate seat in Texas. If everyone watching this right now made a contribution,
Joining me now is New York Congresswoman Nicole Maliotakis. Congresswoman, good to see you. Thank you so much for being here. So can you tell us what happened with yesterday's failed rule vote and the early departure?
Well, first of all, let me say fantastic show this morning, and those of us in Staten Island and Southern Brooklyn are very proud that you're a product of our congressional district. And yesterday what happened was very unfortunate. We saw a group of individuals who shut down the floor, and it's very unfortunate that this handful of individuals are blocking important pieces of legislation from getting out of the House. Remember, we are trying to deal right now with defense authorization. We're trying to pass a package of 60 bills that will support our veterans. We need to reauthorize FISA. We have a number of appropriation bills that need to pass so we can send them to the Senate because we need to fund the government by September 30th. There's so much work for us to do, and these individuals keep shutting down the floor over the Save America Act, which we all support. We voted for multiple times. But the definition of insanity, Maria, is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different outcome. If we're not going to pass the Save America Act in the Senate, let's send them a clean voter ID bill, and let's see what they do then, because they're complaining about different aspects of the Save America Act. I would say let's send them that clean voter ID bill. But I also want to assure people that work is continuing here in Washington. Our committee, House Ways and Means, we will be taking up 7 bills today, including one of mine that is a taxpayer protection act that it actually protects the taxpayers from fraudulent ghost preparers. And so the work does continue, but we can't get these bills out of the House if they keep shutting down the floor each and every week.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. But what realistically can get done? You only have, what, a couple of weeks, right? I mean, when you get back from the July 4th recess, how many, legislative days do you have left? And going into the midterms, how important is it for you to get more done so that you don't lose the majority?
Yeah, look, when we come back, we're going to have 2 weeks, and we've been set back significantly. I think President Trump needs to go to his Truth Social and call out these members who vote against the rule each week, ensuring that we cannot take up these important bills that I just mentioned. This is unacceptable, and who needs Democrats as opponents when you have your own within your party shutting down the Trump agenda and the Republican agenda from moving forward? And that goes the same for the handful of senators on the Senate side that refuse to take up the Save America Act and ensure that we do have voter ID. I just think, look, we've done so many good things. Let's focus on that. We're going to need to focus on that. Whether it's the tax cuts that were really incredible, and we're seeing the benefits of that right now for working Americans and senior citizens and middle-class families and businesses. And we've also secured the border and deported criminals. We need to focus on those wins going into November. We can add a lot more if we can vote on these important pieces of legislation I mentioned.
Well, Congressman, I'm with Dick Grasso this morning. Of course, he has had an incredible career, having been the former chairman and CEO of the New York Stock Exchange, also a Queens boy. Dick, you want to jump in and ask Congresswoman anything?
Congressman, good morning, and congratulations on staying the course of what's so important. Two questions for you. Your party is going to Texas for a pre-election convention. I would hope, and I know you're a great advocate of this, that you come out of that convention with a clear message to the American electorate that it's about affordability. That's what basically elected this mayor in New York City. And if you turn back the pages of history, it's what elected a young governor from Arkansas when he said it's the economy, stupid. It's now about affordability and the American dream. And I would hope, take away the labels and get to the substance and come back with a platform that says to mom and pop, we're going to put food on the table, we're going to put your rent, in a safe place, we're going to give you gas for your tank at a reasonable price. But most importantly, Congresswoman, what are we going to do here in New York? I'm a native New Yorker, been a Floridian for the last 7 years. It breaks my heart to see what's happening. Who is our next mayor, if not you?
Well, maybe Maria wants to run. I think that would be a good one. Look, I already ran for mayor, as you know, in 2017. It didn't work out as I wanted it to, but I do believe that we as a party need to find a candidate, but we also need the business community and the public community and everyone in New York City to band together and support that individual. Running for mayor is very difficult. You gotta have the resources to get out your message, and unfortunately, I didn't have that, and candidates that run as Republicans in New York City often don't get that type of support because people kind of throw in the towel and say a Republican can never win in New York City. I disagree with that sentiment. We saw it happen with Rudy Giuliani. The city had to hit rock bottom. We are in a very dangerous place with a mayor who wants to and is bringing socialism. We're seeing what's happening with the rent freeze that is crushing the landlords. We're seeing property taxes increase to the point where the city's unaffordable and it's driving people out. What people need to understand, or what we understand, is that socialism actually makes everything more expensive. But somebody has to pay for it. It puts pressure on the taxpayer, and therefore it will make the city more unaffordable. Exactly the opposite thing he promised. Now, on the federal side, what I'll say is driving down the cost is exactly what President Trump and Republicans are aiming to do. We passed an amazing housing bill that will increase housing stock, make loan access more accessible for first-time homeowners and homeowners in general. And we are addressing the issues of allowing people to keep more of their hard-earned money. Tipped workers, they were able to get a deduction of, on average, $7,000 as a result of the Working Families Tax Package. Seniors, thousands of dollars in savings, and what they've paid in Social Security taxes returned to them. The president also, let's remember, brought down gas prices down to $3. We will go back down to $3 once we address some of these issues with Iran. We're already seeing that come down significantly. And then we passed a good farm bill that will address the issue of food security and bringing down those prices as well.
All right, Congressman, we're going to be watching your work. We so appreciate you joining.
Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the structural nano silver gel. It's dual purpose. You can use the tube form or the quick dispenser form called Renew. Very high quality, either product. And like I said, it's dual purpose. You can use it as a topical, daily topical, to improve your skin. You can put it on a cut, an abrasion, or a minor burn. It'll help to heal it quicker. During the allergy season, lightly coat your nostrils. It'll neutralize the allergen. And during the cold season, lightly coat your nostrils and put it on your hands. It stays active for 5.5 hours. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the structural nano silver gel. I have collagen. This will help to remodel your joints. If you have arthritic pain or some sort of sports injury, you need to remodel the joint. Collagen will help to remodel the cartilage and the cushioning of the joint. Block the pain gatekeeper, NAV 1.7, so pain will go down. It'll also help to bring down inflammation and reduce the erosion of the joint by blocking the enzymes that erode the joint. This is a very high quality product that you should be taking every day to help to remodel that joint if you have arthritic issues or a sports injury. Stack it with the collagen that I have, so you have the basic components that you need to help to remodel the joint. Now with collagen, taking the collagen and doing some exercises like opening up the joint up to the point of pain and going a little bit more and counting to 30, do that 3 times, once a day, and over time, you are going to notice that you're going to be able to open up the joint and articulate the joint with less pain. You'll have more motion, degrees of motion. So get the collagen, get the collagen, and do those simple exercises I just mentioned, and you will be able to remodel your joint. The longer you wait, the longer it will take to heal. So please go to my store, get the collagen. And lastly, C60. C60 is a very potent antioxidant. It's almost 1,000 times stronger than vitamin C. What you do is you take a teaspoon a day, every day, preferably on an empty stomach in the morning. You'll notice that you recover quicker after a workout. Your immune system and your endocrine system will perform better. You're helping with your cardiovascular health by soaking up those free radicals and reducing the concentration of oxidized LDL. So you're reducing plaque formation. You're also improving your neurons by soaking up free radicals and bringing down inflammation at the neuron level. You're reducing the chances of amyloidosis. You will have healthier mitochondria in your cells, including your neurons. So your neurons will be able to create the neurotransmitters that it needs to have that positive neuroplasticity. Over time, you're going to be able to think faster, have better memory. And C60 you can get in a 2 ounce, a 4 ounce, and an 8 ounce configuration. It is cheaper per ounce to get the higher ounce configuration to save some money. You can get C60 in MCT coconut oil, extra virgin olive oil, and avocado oil. Take a teaspoon a day every day. I've been doing this for over 10 years, every day. C60 will also help with the basal layer of your skin. Improve the health of that basal layer so new skin cells will be healthier. This stacks really well with resveratrol for the basal layer of your skin. And C60 can be stacked with Max 35 or Cleanse, Boomer Boost, the turmeric, ashwagandha, and lignans, and the probiotics. You do that protocol every day, and you'll be supercharging your anti-aging. You'll notice all these different systems will be performing better. You're not going to get sick as often. You'll look younger, you'll have more energy, you'll be more active. And it's a holistic approach. By taking the right supplementation and changing your lifestyle, by proper diet and exercise, proper sleep, learn new things, have some spirituality or some mindfulness to get your nervous system into parasympathetic mode so you're more calm, you will notice that you're slowing down the aging process. So please go to my store and get the C60. Take it every day. Like I said, I've been doing this protocol for over 10 years. Thank you for listening. That's the end of my broadcast. I just want to reiterate where the markets are before we close the show here. The S&P 500 is trading at 7,516. I have a year-end target of 7,800 to about 8,000. Once we get to the 8,000 level, we have to think about where the market might be going. But it's moving up. Now, if you paid attention in the early part of this video, you would have made money on the S&P 500 by longing and by shorting natural gas. I made money during this broadcast. Opened up the positions for the ones that are watching the live stream telemetry. All you got to do is look at the charts and you can see what happened, and closed out my positions and made my money. So if you pay attention to this show, I'm telling you how to make money, how to benefit from the news, not to be a slave to the system, and how to improve your health. Nobody out there can do this other than I can. Nobody. Please help support the work that I do by going to my website and getting the great products that I offer. Thank you for listening and have a nice day.